Okay, for those of you who did watch my Team Edward and Team Jacob video, remember when I made this statement? It's not that often that you get protagonists that would really explore both sides of both the Assassins and Templars. I think Unity tried to do it at one point, but I don't think that they did a pretty good job. That will be for another topic, probably in a few months, probably on Arno's birthday. And let's not forget, if you ever watched my review of the Crystalline Part 1, you may also remember a cringy intro. Yeah, you could see Arno's really not one of my favorite characters. I don't really hate him. He's just have been expected so much from the trailers, and yet he's so bland? Okay, maybe not, but I'm just saying, maybe this French bigot here is a little stale over time because we really expect too much out of him. From trailers' point of views, Arno could be seen as one of the most deadly assassins, but yet in every trailer ever since after the Ezio trilogy seems that way. But yet as we go over the story, we realize that Arno is pretty much one of the most vulnerable characters throughout the entire series. We really don't get to see the rough and tough like all the assassins and a certain Templar before him. But yet if you understand on his upbringing, on witnessing his father's death, and witnessing and being accused of his adopted father's own death, and with a romance that seems too Romeo and Juliet, you really get to see that many fans do see him as too vulnerable. And you know what? They're right. That's because in certain ways, even Arno as a character, he treats himself to what is his on and off stereotype, which is the victim and the martyr. And I think really Arno is torn between two ideals. Now I know I've been mentioning this a lot in a lot of my Let's Get the Facts videos, but I think we really need to see where Arno's true allegiance is. If we go deeper into his character more often and go beyond the hatred for him and yet we still have the pity love for him, I think it would be good for me also to give it for Arno's just as promised. So let's put on the French fries right in front of you and start talking about this French baguette. Now, and I will still hold it on to this day since I kind of mentioned that in my last Crystalline video on the memory shop you last seen there. In the beginning, especially in the first adult cutscenes, I didn't care that much for Arno. It's not because of his personality, but I think the Ubisoft writers were trying really hard to have an Ezio 2.0.
Calm down, Victor. I've only come for my watch.
It's my watch. I want it fairly.
Well, in a just world, Victor, I would agree with you, but this is not a just world. Oh, step lightly there. You'll hurt yourself. Big-headed blacksmith like you probably can't even read a watch.
Okay, I know the watch is broken and it belonged to Arno's father originally, but come on, people treat Silver Slinger's watches better than that. He was the punk, the troubled kid that manages to get into a lot of trouble yet came from a rich background and somehow manages to get away with anything. Even in a smirk, he knows he could get away with all the crap that he would get himself into. And it was really that punk demeanor that would eventually come back to bite him. Not in the way that others would think if they just get into the game. It all really started because of one simple decision. Before I dive into the elephant in the room about Arno's choices and decisions, let me give you a quote by Kimi Sogoli from Beyond the Pain. Every choice starts with a decision. Every decision starts with a thought. Every thought starts with a preconceived idea. It is up to you to decide what you do with each, but always remember that the choice you make will result in the consequences you face. I know a lot of fans are being rabid about Arno not delivering the letter to Monsieur de la Serre, but you gotta give the poor man some credit. He couldn't have not known about the actions of what would take place later on for not delivering the letter.
I didn't know.
Neither did my father.
How could I have known?
Hence, I want to ask my fellow fans and viewers this. How many of us actually faced consequences of a decision that seemed rather harmless? I mean, sure, Arno didn't open the letter. He didn't know what was in there. He was actually doing a courteous thing on not opening the letter. Yet he failed to deliver that letter, even though obviously it was very urgent. I mean, obviously he was going to the same party to see Elise anyway, so why not just hand the letter over to her and things could have gone back and forth and completely differently. But don't hit it off on Arno. Without that, it would have resulted to him feeling like a victim or a martyr in this case.
I'm tired of running from my failures. Monsieur de la Serre, my father. I want to make it right.
There was something definitely wrong with this particular theme, that it was all Arno's fault. Guilt has been the driving point to make Arno go forward, avenge Monsieur de la Serre, and try to figure out why this happened to him, or more importantly, why Elise went through this pain. Seeing Arno feeling so guilty on what happened just because he was present and that people accused him, it was imprinted on his mind. I really wish that Unity would have gone back more often to let him think, I'm going through the same thing as when I was 8 years old at the time, or younger, give or take. You couldn't help but feel that sense of helplessness for Arno again, even when he was a child and to adulthood, which he wanted to have that sense of security, which led on from when he was a child to Elise, which was the start of the tale of the two star-crossed or two-sided lovers. I'm afraid that the Romeo and Juliet setup was so complex that one, for Elise on her half of the situation, it would take her own characteristic video, and on the concept of Romeo and Juliet being overly used a lot, I'll have to use this episode of From the Horse's Mouth as a supplement video. Ever since the beginning of the game, obviously since they were kids, Elise has been the solid rock for Arno to stand on. Even if it means getting each other into trouble and sneaking out from behind and such. Heck, even Arno talks to Elise's painting from time to time when she was out on the boarding school mission, aka Templar missions.
Don't give me that look. Victor cheats when he plays Pharaoh. Everyone knows it.
Arno? Who are you talking to?
No one, monsieur.
Nothing like Arno being caught in a dorky moment where you miss something so much or crave on a crush or your significant other so much, especially your waifu on his case, or if it be on my case, on my gender, on the husbando, that suddenly you just wanted to turn onto something that's a figment of your imagination to suddenly talk to them because of your lonely life. Hey, don't give me that look. I'm still looking for your stuff for Everfree Northwest for your voice actor to sign it for me. Now go back into the shadowy corner and I will get back to debating on you soon. Well, at least that worked better than Arno and Elise's relationship in this game.
You were given a golden opportunity to end his life and you refused to take it.
To save your life?
It isn't yours to save.
What are you saying?
I'm willing to risk everything to put Jamal down. If you don't have the stomach for revenge, then I don't need your help.
Elise. Elise!
You're right, at least because you're giving him the stomach to drink to drown his sorrows.
What do you expect me to say, Elise? Forgive me for not letting you die? I'm sorry that I care more about you than about killing Germain.
I thought we wanted the same thing.
What I wanted was you. I can't bear the fact that my carelessness got your father killed. Everything I've done since then has been to fix that mistake and to prevent it from happening again.
Many fans have commented about this issue. With the combination of Elise's determination and being blinded by revenge for her father's death, that she basically was heartless toward Arno, and that Arno was so blinded by his own sense of guilt and shame that he wanted to protect Elise, but could have seen that they both wanted the same thing, like Elise pointed out. And actually, she and I agreed. There was an opportunity, and Arno should have known by now that she could have defended herself unless a precursor sword was involved, and, well, we may as well say it, she dies in the end. Which leads on to a really good question on why I'm so peeved off about this particular storyline in general. Not too long after Unity's release, I saw in an article that Arno was originally to be killed off and Elise would have lived. Now, things could have been different in the perspective, and it really inspired me after reading the trilogy arc. There is an actual Assassin's Creed comic arc, and right in the 3rd issue, actually the main character, which I cannot speak Greek for the life of me to save me, I'm sorry for the purpose of this review, but actually his lover, who became pregnant with his child when he got killed, suddenly the animus carried through. What if the same formula contrast would have worked in Assassin's Creed Unity instead? Maybe he and Elise had a night of passion and he would have been killed off, and yet we lived through Elise's memories. It would have made more sense.
All that we do, all that we are, begins and ends with ourselves.
Now, you guys, I understand Assassin's Creed Unity isn't an ideal Assassin's Creed game. For many years, people have been requesting headcanoning the French Revolution, and they keep thinking that it would be like Les Miserables. I mean, even Sean Hastings made a comment that they cannot make a Les Mis feel to it. And you know what? You're right. Assassin's Creed Unity had a lot of glitches, yes. The formula was out of place, but that really overshadowed on Arno's case. He's not really like a victim or a martyr. It's the character arc that made him go through that. There are some sensible men in the world, and Arno is really the most romantic. Not in the sense of the man and woman love, but in a way that he is passionate and he wanted to make things right. When everyone is driven in revenge or anything on the next comics, or anything in particular on the games in particular, they don't realize that he is the most human of the assassins. And I'm really seeing this for myself, and the real reason why I didn't like Arno in the first place, well, he was a reflection on myself, and especially what happened in my past. I know how Arno went through. I know how he felt. The felt that it was all his fault. Because if there's one thing I learned as a victim of circumstances that are too hard for me to talk about, and you know by a previous video that I won't mention about without getting choked up, what people need to realize is the victim, it's not your fault. Well, for the killing of his father, he didn't obviously care about it, and Ubisoft, I'm still waiting for the Connor, Shay, and Arno face-off. You need to get it done! But the one thing that peeves me about why they left Arno hanging, and not just in the DLC game, which that was a fantastic closure on Arno's part, but I felt like this isn't enough. Arno needed more development, just as much as Shay, and even, yes, Connor had the closure through the Reflections comic, but I think there could have been more in Arno's character development. They needed a better sense of closure, because as a victim, he needs that closure, just like anyone else. So I really hope in the future that Ubisoft would give him closure as much as Shay or any of the other characters. And I would have to say, he became my most relatable character that I face. And to think that I didn't like him originally is because I didn't like myself because of circumstances. And now after going through this, I do feel better and think that he is a really good character. He's just been placed in a bad formula in a story game that is too rushed. And the closest thing we got was the Unity novella. And right now, I do feel at peace about it. And I really hope there is more to come. And I know I said it so many times, and I'm going to keep on saying it again. Hoping that Arno fans would have the same closure as I do. I am the Dark Horse of KC. Have a good, creative, and blessed day.